The forest was alive with enchantment, a realm where nature whispered secrets and magic pulsed through the air. The shimmering mist curled around ancient trees, their gnarled trunks adorned with vibrant mosses that seemed to glow in the dappled sunlight. Leaves danced like emerald flames in the gentle breeze, casting kaleidoscopic patterns on the forest floor. Wildflowers bloomed in colors so vivid they appeared to pulse with the very essence of life. The sweet scent of jasmine mingled with earthy pine, creating a fragrant tapestry that enveloped Sanaa as she stepped into this mystical world. Sanaa stood at the edge of a clearing, a young woman of slender build. Her rich, dark skin glowed softly in the dappled light, and her tightly coiled hair, adorned with small beads, caught the sun's rays, creating tiny rainbows as she moved. With almond-shaped, deep brown eyes sparkling with a mix of determination and uncertainty, she felt a profound connection to the lush surroundings, yet an underlying sense of detachment tugged at her heart. Clad in a flowing dress of vibrant green fabric that mirrored the foliage around her, Sanaa embodied the spirit of the forest. Her grandfather Eldrin stood as a towering figure among their people, revered as a wise elder shaman. Tall and robust, with skin as deep as mahogany, his long silver beard framed a weathered face etched with the lines of experience. His deep-set brown eyes radiated authority and warmth, commanding respect from all who crossed his path. In his presence, Sanaa felt a sense of belonging and security, yet she also felt the weight of expectations resting heavily upon her shoulders. One fateful evening, the peaceful existence of their community was shattered. Sanaa wandered deeper into the forest, seeking solace among the trees, when a chill crept into the air, piercing her thoughts. She sensed it, an ominous, dark presence lurking just beyond her perception. Memories of Kané, the once revered shaman twisted by ambition and dark power, flooded her mind. Suddenly, the tranquility of the forest was disrupted, each rustle of leaves now a warning. A sense of urgency propelled Sanaa back toward the village, her heart racing as she navigated the winding paths. As she emerged from the dense foliage, she found Eldrin and other villagers gathered, their faces etched with concern and fear. Kané has returned, Eldrin announced, his voice grave. He seeks the Eternity Stone, and if he possesses it, chaos will descend upon our land. Before Sanaa could respond, dark shadows began to encroach upon the village, twisting like smoke as Kané appeared. His eyes glinted with cruel intent, and a smile twisted his lips, a harbinger of the destruction to come. The sacred temple, once a beacon of strength and hope, trembled as flames licked at its walls, consuming the stories of their ancestors. The confrontation came swiftly, like a storm breaking over the horizon. Sanaa stood transfixed, her heart racing as she witnessed the clash of titans unfold before her. Eldrin, her grandfather, stood at one end of the temple ruins, his presence a beacon of light against the encroaching darkness. Kané, twisted by ambition, faced him, shadows swirling around him like a cloak of malevolence. "Eldrin!" Kané sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You cling to your outdated ideals, thinking you can protect these people with your feeble magic. They will see the truth. Power is the only way to bring order." "Power without purpose is a path to destruction, Kané," Eldrin replied, his voice steady but filled with sorrow. "You once understood that. We were guardians, not tyrants." "Guardians?" Kané laughed, a sound that sent chills down Sanaa's spine. "You've grown weak in your old age. It's time for a new order, one where fear reigns supreme." Sanaa felt the energy crackling in the air as Eldrin raised his hands and summoned the earth to his aid. The air around him shimmered with energy. "By the spirits of the earth, I bind you!" he shouted, his voice resonating with ancient authority. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet, and roots erupted from the earth, snaking toward Kané like the tendrils of a great beast. But Kané was ready. With a flick of his wrist, dark tendrils of shadow spiraled outward, slicing through the roots as if they were mere strands of grass. "You think your pathetic nature magic can stop me?" he snarled, venom dripping from his words. The shadows around him surged forward, their forms shifting and contorting, feeding off his rage and amplifying his power. Sanaa's heart pounded in her chest as she watched the two shamans clash. Eldrin summoned the earth's strength, his brow furrowed with concentration, sweat glistening on his forehead as he fought against the darkness threatening to consume him. The energy radiating from him was palpable, a warmth that contrasted sharply with the icy grasp of Kané's magic. "Sanaa!" he called, urgency lacing his voice. "Take the amulet key and run! You must protect it at all costs!" "No!" Sanaa protested, tears welling in her eyes. "I can't leave you! You're fighting him alone! Trust me, child! You must survive to carry on our legacy!" he urged, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Dakarai!" Eldrin turned to the young temple guard standing nearby, desperation etched on his face. "Take her away! Protect her!" Sanaa's heart. "Come on, Sanaa," Dakarai said, his voice firm but gentle as he stepped forward, determination in his eyes. "We need to get you to safety. We can't let Kané take you too." In that moment, Eldrin turned to Sanaa, urgency flashing in his eyes. "Go! Protect the key!" The command was both a plea and a shield. With a heavy heart, Sanaa grasped the amulet key, a beautiful artifact shimmering with ancient runes that glowed with an inner light. The sounds of magic clashing behind her felt like a storm as she reluctantly turned to flee, feeling Dakarai at her side. Finally, they stumbled upon a hidden glade, a sanctuary of soft moss and wildflowers. Gasping for breath, she sank to her knees on the soft moss, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Why did you let him take me away?" Sanaa shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. "I should have stayed with him!" Dakarai stepped closer, his expression a mix of concern and guilt. "I was trying to protect you, Sanaa. He wanted you to be safe. We both did." "Safe?" Sanaa scoffed, wiping her tears away with trembling hands. "While he fights Kané alone, I swear I will make him pay for this." In that moment of despair, a soft breeze stirred the air, carrying with it whispers of the spirits that inhabited the forest. "I will honor Eldrin's memory," she whispered, determination igniting within her as she wiped her tears and inhaled deeply. Dakarai took her hand, squeezing it gently. "He believed in you, Sanaa. He believed you could carry on his legacy." "You have to honor that. We will make him pay, but we need to be strategic. We can't let our emotions cloud our judgment." Sanaa looked into his eyes, finding a flicker of hope amid her despair. "You're right. I need to be stronger. For him." "I will protect the key," she vowed, determination igniting within her. Days passed. Sanaa found herself hiding in the forest, evading Kané's relentless pursuit. It was during one of these desperate moments that she encountered Jabari, a wise shaman whose deep-set eyes seemed to hold the wisdom of ages. Tall and lean with skin the color of rich mahogany, radiating a calming presence. He was adorned with feathers and beads that clinked softly as he approached her in a small clearing surrounded by ancient trees. "I know who you are, Sanaa," he said, his voice a soothing balm to her frayed nerves. "You carry the weight of your grandfather's legacy. I can help you, but you must face these trials alone." Sanaa hesitated, glancing back at Dakarai, who stood a few steps away, concern etched on his face. "What about him? He wants to help," she protested. "Dakarai may hinder your training," Jabari replied gently. "You must learn to stand on your own, to embrace the spirit within you without reliance on others." Dakarai stepped forward, concern etched on his face. "I understand what you're saying, Jabari, but Sanaa shouldn't have to face this alone. She needs support." "Thank you, Dakarai," Sanaa said, squeezing Dakarai's hand. "But I also understand what Jabari is saying. I need to learn to harness my powers." Jabari nodded, acknowledging her resolve. "Then come with me, Sanaa. The spirits are waiting to guide you." Reluctantly, Sanaa allowed Jabari to guide her. He led her to a secluded grove where the vibrant colors of wildflowers danced in the gentle breeze. Here, he taught her the ways of the spirits, guiding her through rituals and helping her connect with the energies of nature. "Feel the earth beneath your feet," he instructed one day. "Let it ground you and open your heart to the spirits." Under Jabari's guidance, Sanaa faced a series of trials designed to test her connection to the elements and her ability to harness her shamanic powers. Jabari led Sanaa to a high ridge overlooking the sprawling forest, the wind howling like a wild beast around them. "To summon the wind, you must first understand its nature," he instructed, standing firmly with his feet planted wide, arms outstretched. The air was charged with energy, swirling around them, and Sanaa felt her heart race with anticipation. Closing her eyes, Sanaa inhaled deeply, feeling the cool breeze caress her skin. She focused on her breath, envisioning the wind dancing through the trees. "Concentrate on your intent, Sanaa. Let the wind carry your spirit," Jabari urged. Drawing upon her inner strength, Sanaa summoned her energy, feeling a surge course through her. The wind responded, lifting leaves into a swirling vortex at her feet. But as the energy intensified, she felt an overwhelming pressure build in her chest. The wind turned fierce, whipping around her with a ferocity that threatened to knock her off balance. Panic surged within her, and she struggled to maintain control. "Focus! Don't let fear take hold!" Jabari shouted over the roar of the wind. Tears streamed down Sanaa's face as she fought against the tempest. Just as despair threatened to consume her, she remembered Eldrin's teachings about balance. Drawing from her core, she steadied her breath, channeling the wind not as a force of destruction, but as a gentle breeze. With a final surge of will, the winds calmed, and she opened her eyes to see leaves floating gracefully around her. Victory washed over her, but with it came a sobering realization. She could not let her emotions drive her magic, or it would consume her. The next trial took place in a secluded clearing surrounded by ancient trees, their trunks standing as silent witnesses to her journey. Jabari built a small fire, its flickering flames casting dancing shadows around them. "Fire is life and destruction," he explained, his voice steady. "You must respect its dual nature if you wish to wield it." Sanaa knelt before the fire, feeling its warmth seep into her skin. She closed her eyes, reaching deep within herself to find the spark of energy that lay dormant. The heat of the flames called to her, a siren song that both intrigued and terrified her. "Let it flow through you," Jabari encouraged. "Control it, don't fight it." With a deep breath, Sanaa extended her hands toward the fire. She envisioned the flames dancing to her will, but as she tried to summon the fire, an intense heat washed over her, overwhelming her senses. "Let go of your fear," Jabari shouted, seeing the struggle in her eyes. In that moment, vivid memories flooded back. The destruction of the temple, the flames consuming everything she held dear, the cries of her people ringing in her ears. Anguish and anger bubbled up within her, threatening to explode. But instead of succumbing, she channeled those emotions. Drawing upon her pain, she directed her energy toward the fire, allowing it to grow in a controlled manner. The flames roared to life, obeying her command, dancing higher without consuming her. As the fire burned brightly, Sanaa felt a deep connection to the element, a part of her spirit intertwined with its essence. But the emotional toll was significant. She collapsed to her knees, panting, the weight of her memories threatening to drown her. "You have faced your fear and conquered it," Jabari said, kneeling beside her, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Remember, you are not alone." In that moment, Sanaa understood the true meaning of resilience. With each breath, she began to reclaim her lost strength, knowing that the flames that once destroyed could now be harnessed for rebirth. The third trial unfolded in a serene valley filled with vibrant flowers and lush greenery. Jabari instructed Sanaa to create a protective barrier using the earth itself. "The earth is your foundation," he explained. "It will provide strength if you learn to listen to it." Sanaa closed her eyes and pressed her palms against the soil, feeling its coolness seep into her skin. She envisioned a barrier rising around her, a protective wall against the darkness. As she summoned her energy, she felt the ground tremble beneath her, small stones beginning to shift. But as she concentrated, an aching heaviness settled in her chest. Doubts crept in, whispering that she wasn't strong enough. The earth responded to her hesitation, the stones crumbling and falling apart instead of rising to form a barrier. Frustration gnawed at her and tears pricked at her eyes. "Trust in the earth, Sanaa," Jabari urged gently. "It knows you." In that moment, Sanaa realized she had been fighting against the earth instead of working with it. She needed to let go of her doubts and trust in her abilities. Drawing upon her connection to the land, she focused on the strength of her ancestors who had walked before her. She whispered their names, feeling their support bolster her spirit. With renewed determination, Sanaa pressed her palms deeper into the soil and felt the earth respond. The ground shook, and with a powerful surge of energy, the stones rallied around her, forming a formidable barrier that sparkled with life. She opened her eyes to see a protective wall standing strong before her. Exhausted and overwhelmed, Sanaa sank to her knees, breathing heavily. The emotional toll of the trials weighed on her. Memories of loss, fear, and uncertainty clashed with the exhilaration of her progress. But as she looked at the barrier she had created, a flicker of hope ignited within her. With each breath, she absorbed the strength radiating from the barrier, realizing that it wasn't just a wall, but a testament to her journey. In that serene valley, Sanaa understood the true power of connection and trust. The sacred grove was alive with the sounds of nature, the rustling leaves and chirping birds creating a symphony that echoed the heartbeat of the earth. Sanaa stood before Jabari, her mentor, who had guided her through the trials of wind, flame, and earth. "Today, you will dive into the depths of your own soul, Sanaa," Jabari said, his voice steady and calm. He gestured toward a serene lake that reflected the sky like a mirror. Sanaa felt a mixture of anxiety and determination. "What if I fail?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I can't face my fears?" "Every fear is a part of you," Jabari replied, his eyes piercing yet kind. "To overcome it, you must first embrace it. Trust in the spirits and in yourself. You are stronger than you realize." Taking a deep breath, Sanaa nodded, steeling herself for the challenge ahead. She approached the lake's edge, the cool water lapping at her feet. "I can do this," she murmured to herself, though uncertainty lingered in her heart. "Remember, Sanaa," Jabari said, his gaze unwavering. "The spirits will guide you, but you must be willing to listen. Dive deep, and when you feel the weight of your fears, let them wash over you. Only then can you emerge with the strength you seek." With those words in mind, Sanaa stepped into the water, the coolness enveloping her like a gentle embrace. She submerged herself, the world above fading away as she descended into the depths. The darkness enveloped her, and panic began to claw at her heart. Memories of loss and fear bubbled to the surface, threatening to overwhelm her. But then she remembered Jabari's words. "Embrace your fears." Taking a deep breath, she allowed the memories to wash over her. Images of Eldrin's wise eyes, the destruction of the temple, the pain of loss. Instead of fighting against them, she surrendered, letting the emotions flow through her like currents in the water. She settled into the depths, feeling a pull toward a glimmering light, the sacred stone radiating warmth and energy. With newfound resolve, she reached for it, her fingers brushing against its smooth surface, and in that moment, a surge of understanding flooded her mind. Emerging from the water, Sanaa clutched the sacred stone to her chest, a triumphant smile breaking through the tears on her face as Jabari awaited her. "You have done well, Sanaa," he said, his voice filled with warmth, acknowledging her courage and embracing her fears. "Thank you, Jabari," she replied, her heart swelling with gratitude, knowing she couldn't have done it without his guidance. "You are ready now," he said, his tone turning serious, warning her of the challenges that lie ahead. "But know that the final confrontation will be challenging. You will face Kané, and it will require every ounce of strength and courage you possess," Jabari cautioned. "I'm ready," Sanaa affirmed, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders as she thought of Dakarai. "Dakarai's role is crucial, but he must understand that this journey is yours to complete. He cannot fight your battles for you," Jabari explained thoughtfully. "I will make him understand," she promised, recognizing the necessity of her own destiny despite the pang of sadness. "Good," Jabari smiled, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder, affirming her potential to inspire others with her strength. "Your strength lies not just in your magic, but in your ability to inspire others. Lead with your heart and they will follow," he advised, reinforcing her purpose. As the sun set behind them, Sanaa felt a surge of energy, ready to embrace her destiny and face whatever lay ahead. With each heartbeat, she embraced the power within her, knowing the final confrontation with Kané was imminent. The time had come for their destinies to collide, and Sanaa was ready to reclaim her power against the darkness that threatened to consume her. With a fierce cry, she unleashed the magic of the sacred stone, calling forth all her fears transformed into strength, preparing for the ultimate battle. Days passed as Sanaa prepared for the confrontation with Kané, her heart heavy with the weight of her responsibilities. She had trained relentlessly, honing her abilities and mastering the elements. Yet, the thought of facing Kané filled her with a mix of anticipation and dread. As Sanaa trained fiercely in the clearing, she felt the energy of the elements surge through her, while the shadows of Kané loomed closer in her mind, an ever-present. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the forest, Sanaa found Dakarai sitting on a fallen log, staring into the distance. She approached him quietly, sensing the turmoil within him. "Dakarai?" she called softly, sitting beside him. "What's on your mind?" He turned to her, his expression troubled. I wish I could do more. I feel so helpless." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in his eyes. Sanaa took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "I know it's hard," she began, her voice steady. "But this is my fight. Jabari taught me that I need to embrace my destiny, and part of that means doing this on my own." "But I want to protect you!" Dakarai exclaimed, his voice rising with emotion. Sanaa turned to him, her heart aching at the vulnerability in his eyes. "Dakarai, you've been my strength through all of this. But I need to do this for myself and for our people. I need to show them that they can trust me as their guardian." He looked away, the weight of her words settling heavily between them. "I understand, but I can't shake the feeling that I should be there to fight with you." Sanaa reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "If something goes wrong, I will find a way. I promise you. I've faced my fears and I know I can do this, but I need you to believe in me." Dakarai met her gaze, searching for the truth in her eyes. "I do believe in you, Sanaa. It's just hard to let go." Sanaa smiled softly, her voice gentle and reassuring. "I know it's difficult, but this is my path to walk." But there was a hint of sadness in his eyes. "I just wish I could fight alongside you. I'll miss being by your side in battle." "Your support is what I need most," Sanaa assured him. "You've trained me, encouraged me, and believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And that's more powerful than any magic." As the sun set, casting a warm glow around them, Sanaa leaned in, resting her head on his shoulder. They sat in comfortable silence, the weight of their shared journey hanging in the air. But as the stars began to twinkle above, Sanaa knew their time together was drawing to a close. She turned to him, her heart heavy. "Dakarai, whatever happens, know that you will always be a part of me. I couldn't have become who I am without you." He looked down at her, his eyes filled with emotion. "You're going to be amazing, Sanaa. I believe in you." "Thank you," she whispered, feeling tears prick at her eyes. "I won't let you down." With that, they shared a tender moment, their foreheads touching as they savored the connection that had flourished between them. In that instant, everything felt right, and Sanaa felt a warmth spread through her heart. "Promise me one thing," Dakarai said, his voice low and earnest. "When this is all over, we'll find a way to be together. I want to be there for you no matter what the future holds. I promise," Sanaa replied, her heart racing with the weight of his words. "Once we defeat Kané, we will face the future together, side by side." As they pulled back, Sanaa cupped his face in her hands, her heart swelling with love and determination. "I'll carry your strength with me into battle. You've given me everything I need to succeed." With a final lingering look, Dakarai stepped back, his expression bittersweet. "I'll be waiting for you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Be safe, Sanaa." "Always," she promised, watching him turn away, his silhouette fading into the shadows of the forest. As she stood alone, Sanaa felt a mix of sadness and resolve wash over her. She was ready for the final confrontation, carrying the love and strength of those who believed in her. With the sacred stone in her heart and Dakarai's unwavering support guiding her, she would embrace her destiny. As the shadows engulfed her surroundings, Sanaa approached the mouth of the dark cave where Kané awaited. The air was thick with tension, and ancient symbols carved into the rocky walls whispered secrets of old. She felt the weight of Dakarai's belief in her as she clutched the glowing sacred stone tightly. This wasn't just a battle, it was a reckoning. With each step forward, memories of her training with Dakarai surged through her mind, fueling her resolve. "I won't let you down," she whispered to herself, echoing her promise. The darkness loomed like a living entity, daring her to turn back, but she pressed on, a warrior on a mission. Inside the cavern, a flicker of light revealed Kané, a menacing figure cloaked in shadows. "So the girl has come to play hero," he sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. Sanaa straightened, her heart pounding. "I'm not just a girl, I'm the force that will bring you down." She held the sacred stone aloft, its light illuminating the dark corners of the cave, dispelling the dread that had taken root in her heart. Kané's eyes narrowed with contempt. "You think you can defeat me?" He laughed darkly, the sound reverberating through the chamber. "You're nothing without your precious mentor!" Sanaa's grip tightened around the stone, recalling Dakarai's words. She could feel his strength surging through her. "I am more than you know, Kané. I carry the hopes of my people with me, and that makes me powerful." The air crackled with energy as they squared off, the sacred stone pulsating with first light, ready to unleash its fury against the darkness. The air was electric with tension as Sanaa and Dakarai approached the sacred chamber, a place steeped in ancient magic and memories of their ancestors. The path was flanked by towering trees, their branches whispering secrets as if warning them of the danger that lay ahead. Sanaa felt the weight of the amulet key around her neck, its presence a constant reminder of her responsibility and the legacy she carried. As they neared the entrance, the ground beneath their feet trembled slightly, a subtle indication that the balance of power was shifting. Sanaa's heart raced, a mix of fear and determination coursing through her veins. She glanced at Dakarai, who walked beside her, his expression resolute. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, his voice low but steady. "I have to be," Sanaa replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "For Eldrin, for everyone." Stepping into the chamber, they were met by a sight that made Sanaa's blood run cold. Kané stood at the center, a dark figure cloaked in swirling shadows, the amulet key glinting ominously in his grasp. The room was filled with an oppressive darkness that seemed to pulse with his malevolent energy, the air thick with fear and despair. "Ah, Sanaa," Kané purred, his voice smooth yet laced with malice. "You've come to join your grandfather in the afterlife? How noble!" His eyes gleamed with a predatory hunger, and the shadows coiled around him like serpents, whispering promises of power. "Kané!" Sanaa shouted, her voice ringing with defiance. "You will not take what is ours. The amulet key belongs to the Guardians, not to a traitor like you." Kané laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the chamber. "Guardians? You're nothing but a child playing at being a shaman. Power is the only truth, and I will have the Eternity Stone." With that, he raised the amulet key, the runes glowing brighter as dark tendrils of energy surged from him, reaching out like ravenous beasts. Sanaa instinctively reached for the amulet key, feeling its power resonate within her. "We can't let him win, Dakarai," she yelled as she summoned her courage. The air... Sanaa felt a surge of fear wash over her, but quickly steadied herself. "Dakarai, we must stand together," she urged, her eyes locked on Kané. "We can't let him win." Dakarai nodded, determination etched on his face. "Together," he affirmed. They positioned themselves side by side, channeling their energies, ready to confront the darkness that threatened to engulf them. As the dark tendrils lunged toward them, Sanaa raised her hands, summoning the power of the elements she had mastered. "By the spirits of the earth, I command you to stand back!" she cried, feeling the earth beneath her pulse with energy. "Foolish girl!" Kané sneered, flicking his wrist dismissively. The shadows coiled and twisted, breaking free from Sanaa's grasp as he retaliated with a blast of dark energy that struck the ground, sending shockwaves through the chamber. The force knocked Sanaa and Dakarai off their feet, sending them sprawling onto the cold stone floor. "Get up!" Dakarai shouted, scrambling to his feet and reaching for Sanaa. Sanaa nodded, determination igniting within her as she rose. "You won't win, Kané. The spirits of this land will protect us." She summoned her inner strength, feeling the warmth of the sacred stone in her pocket resonate with her spirit. With a surge of power, Sanaa shouted, "Together we rise! Spirits of the earth, lend us your strength!" As the dark tendrils recoiled, Sanaa and Dakarai felt the warmth of unity bolster their resolve, becoming one with the spirits they invoked. But Kané, now furious, gathered his dark energy, an ominous orb forming in his hands as he prepared for a final devastating strike. "We can't let him break our spirit!" Sanaa shouted, her voice resonating with strength as they focused their energy into a glowing shield. With a thunderous crash, the dark energy collided against their shield, causing a blinding explosion that illuminated the entire chamber. As the dust settled, Sanaa and Dakarai stood their ground, heartbeats racing, determined to face whatever came next. Sanaa. Kané's laughter filled the chamber, echoing off the walls like a death knell. Do you really think your little magic can save you? I will crush you both! With a fierce shout, he unleashed a wave of shadows that crashed toward them like a tidal wave. In that moment, Sanaa felt a rush of adrenaline. Now, Dakarai, she called, merging her spirit with the sacred stone's energy. We can do this together! As their energies intertwined, Sanaa summoned roots and vines from the earth, commanding them to rise and bind Kané. The tendrils of nature surged forward, wrapping around him, but he fought back, dark energy exploding from him in a desperate attempt to break free. No! In a moment of chaos, Kané outstretched his hand, and the shadows around him coalesced into a formidable wave. With a swift motion, he reached for Sanaa, his fingers brushing against the amulet key hanging from her neck. Give it to me, he commanded, his voice a hiss. Sanaa struggled to keep her grip on the key, but Kané's dark energy surged, wrapping around her wrist, pulling her closer. She felt the cold touch of despair creeping into her heart. No, you can't have it, she cried, trying to pull away. But Kané's strength was overwhelming. With one final, violent tug, he ripped the amulet key from her grasp. Sanaa gasped, the world around her dimming as the key slipped from her fingers and into Kané's palm. Foolish girl, he declared, raising the amulet key high above his head. The runes glowed ominously, pulsating with dark energy. With this, I will unlock the power of the Eternity Stone, and you will be powerless to stop me. In a moment, Kané raised the amulet key triumphantly. A surge of darkness enveloped him, his laughter echoing like thunder in the chamber. Sanaa stood frozen, shock coursing through her veins. The realization that the key, her connection to her ancestors, and the hope of her community was now in the hands of a traitor filled her with despair. No! This can't be happening, she cried, her voice trembling as she looked at Dakarai, who was regaining his footing beside her. Get up, Sanaa! We can't let him escape with it, Dakarai urged, his expression fierce with determination. He reached for her hand, grounding her amidst the chaos. Sanaa shook her head, trying to clear the fog of disbelief. But he has the key! Without it, we're powerless! The weight of loss threatened to pull her under, but deep within her, the spirit of her grandfather flickered like a dying flame, urging her to rise. Together, we can still stop him, Dakarai insisted, his grip tightening around her hand. We can't let him unleash the stone's power. Sanaa took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the sacred stone resonating with her spirit. You're right, she said, fire igniting in her eyes. We have to regroup and find a way to confront him again. He can't be allowed to reach the Eternity Stone. They exchanged a determined glance, the bond between them solidifying in that moment. As Sanaa and Dakarai moved toward the entrance of the chamber, she felt the air shift, the whispers of the spirits growing louder, guiding her steps. We need a plan, Sanaa said, her voice steadying. He won't expect us to come after him so soon. Dakarai nodded, his eyes scanning the surroundings. We need to use the elements to our advantage. We can't let him get too far. Together, they ventured deeper into the shadows of the chamber, the remnants of the battle lingering in the air like a heavy fog. Sanaa felt the pulse of her ancestors urging her forward, filling her with a sense of purpose. She recalled the trials she had faced, the lessons learned, and the strength she had gained. Follow me, she instructed, leading Dakarai through a narrow passage that wound deeper into the earth. The walls were damp and cool, and the air grew heavier with each step. As they reached a large cavern illuminated by bioluminescent fungi, Sanaa paused, allowing the light to wash over her. We can use the earth to our advantage, she said, her mind racing with possibilities. If we can create a barrier, we can slow him down, Sanaa declared, her voice filled with conviction and inspiration. They both worked with urgency, knowing every second counted as they fortified their defense against the dark forces approaching. Sanaa took a step back, evaluating their creation, while Dakarai stood vigilant, prepared to defend their hard work against any threat that dared to approach. Sanaa closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the energy of the sacred stone surge within her, filling her with newfound strength. A gust of wind rustled through the cavern, and they both sensed it. The darkness was approaching, and with it, the confrontation they had been preparing for. Sanaa. Dakarai stepped closer, his brow furrowed in thought. What if we summon the roots and vines again? We can set a trap at the entrance to the chamber. Yes! Sanaa exclaimed, feeling the energy of the earth beneath her feet. They knelt together in the soft earth, their fingers digging into the soil as they focused their intentions. By the spirits of the forest, we call upon your strength, Sanaa chanted, feeling the connection to the land surge through her. The ground trembled as roots began to rise, twisting and spiraling around them, forming a thick barrier at the entrance to the chamber. The air crackled with energy, and Sanaa felt a wave of confidence wash over her. We need to hurry, she urged, glancing back toward the path they had come from. He won't be far behind. With their trap set, Sanaa and Dakarai raced back toward the chamber, determination fueling their steps. As they approached, they could see the shadows of Kané flickering ominously at the entrance, the dark tendrils swirling around him like a storm. Kané! Sanaa shouted, her voice ringing with defiance as they emerged into the chamber. You won't get away with this! Kané turned, a wicked grin spreading across his face as he saw them. Ah, the brave little shaman returns, he taunted, the amulet key still clutched tightly in his hand. I must commend your tenacity, but it will avail you little against the power I now possess. Sanaa felt her heart race, but she stood tall, refusing to let fear take hold. We won't let you unleash the Eternity Stone's power, Kané. We're stronger than you think. With that, the battle reignited, and Sanaa summoned her magic, merging it with Dakarai's strength as they prepared to face the darkness once more. Sanaa felt the power coursing through her veins, the forest spirit igniting her resolve. Together, they faced Kané, ready to unleash their combined strength against the encroaching shadows. The air thickened with tension as the first clash erupted, a vibrant wave of green meeting a surge of darkness. This ends now! Dakarai shouted, rallying behind Sanaa as they unleashed their magic towards Kané. Dark tendrils lashed out like whips, aiming to ensnare them, but they danced around the attacks, nimble and fierce. You underestimate our bond, Sanaa declared, a fierce determination in her eyes as she called upon the roots beneath them to rise higher, forming a protective barrier. Kané roared in frustration, every word dripping with malice. You've only delayed the inevitable! Their energies collided, creating a tempest of light and dark that echoed through the chamber, shaking its ancient foundations. In that moment, it was clear the fate of the Eternity Stone hung in the balance, sparking a battle for the very essence of their world. Dakarai. The chamber pulsed with dark energy. Kané's wicked grin only widened as he taunted Sanaa and Dakarai. They stood firm, ready to face the encroaching darkness with unyielding courage. Sanaa's hands began to glow with a vibrant green energy, summoning the elements of the wind and earth. Dakarai focused intently, feeling the ground beneath him tremble as they prepared to unleash their combined powers. A powerful whirlwind began to form, intertwining with the roots that surged toward Kané, ready to strike. Kané's expression shifted from overconfidence to apprehension as he felt the impending force of their united magic. The magic from Sanaa and Dakarai collided in a spectacular explosion of light and energy, illuminating the entire chamber. Kané's dark shield began to crack, revealing the vulnerability hidden beneath his arrogance. Sanaa and Dakarai gritted their teeth, pouring every ounce of strength into their combined attack, determined to break through. Kané, realizing the gravity of the situation, desperately reached out to stabilize his crumbling dark shield. The roots entwined tightly around Kané's dark shield, pulsating with vibrant energy as they advanced. Kané's eyes widened in horror as the last remnants of his protective barrier began to shatter under the relentless force. A brilliant flash of light erupted as the shield finally gave way, sending shockwaves reverberating through the chamber. Sanaa and Dakarai stood resolute amidst the chaos, their determination to finish the attack unwavering. Kané found himself engulfed in the radiant energy of the unleashed magic, struggling to maintain his footing against the overwhelming assault. Sanaa and Dakarai exchanged a determined glance, their hands still raised, unwavering in their focus on the dark sorcerer. A swirling vortex of wind and roots enveloped Kané, tightening with each moment he fought against it. His expression twisted in fury as he prepared to unleash a counterattack, channeling dark energy from the shadows. Dakarai joined her, his voice resonating with strength. "And by the strength of the earth, I bind you!" The ground trembled beneath their feet as he summoned the roots once more, channeling the earth's energy into the wind. As the two forces merged, a powerful gust of wind burst forth, swirling around them like a cyclone. The wind howled, tearing through Kané's dark barrier, sending tendrils of shadow flying in all directions. "No! This cannot be!" Kané shouted, his voice filled with rage as he struggled to maintain control over the shadows. The wind buffeted him, pushing him back toward the pedestal where the Eternity Stone lay. "Now, Sanaa," Dakarai urged. "We can't let him get to the stone." With a fierce determination, Sanaa focused her energy, the sacred stone pulsing in her pocket as if sensing the urgency of the moment. "Spirits of the earth, bind him!" she commanded, channeling her magic into the roots that surged forward, entwining around Kané's legs and pulling him to the ground. The chamber shook as Kané stumbled, the shadows flickering in response to his fear. "You think you can hold me?" he hissed through gritted teeth, trying to break free from the grasp of the roots. "I will not be contained!" Kané roared, but his voice was laced with desperation. The shadows began to dissipate, and Sanaa could see the fear flickering in his eyes. "Together, Dakarai!" Sanaa shouted, feeling the power of their bond strengthen. "We can do this!" Dakarai nodded, his eyes fierce with determination. "Let's finish this!" With a final surge of will, Sanaa and Dakarai poured their energy into the roots, amplifying their strength. The roots tightened around Kané, pulling him down, while the wind howled, battering him with fierce gusts that disoriented him further. "No! I refuse to be defeated by the likes of you!" Kané roared, but his voice was laced with desperation. The shadows began to dissipate, and Sanaa could see the fear flickering in his eyes. "Now!" Sanaa shouted, feeling the moment of triumph within her grasp. "We have to take back the amulet key!" With one final push, they directed their combined magic toward Kané, the roots coiling tighter around him. The shadows recoiled, and with the force of their united magic, they sent Kané tumbling backward, crashing against the pedestal. In a moment of chaos, the amulet key slipped from Kané's grasp, falling to the ground with a soft thud. Sanaa's heart raced as she saw it glinting in the dim light, a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. "Grab it!" Dakarai yelled, his voice cutting through the chaos. Sanaa lunged forward, her hand outstretched as she reached for the amulet key. Just as her fingers brushed against the cool surface, Kané's fury erupted. "You will pay for this!" he bellowed, dark energy surging from him in a final, desperate attempt to reclaim his power. But Sanaa gripped the amulet key tightly, feeling its energy resonate with her spirit. "No more!" she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. "This ends now!" With the amulet key in her grasp, she drew upon the strength of her ancestors, channeling their spirit into her magic. "By the light of my people, I command you to leave!" she shouted, sending a wave of energy toward Kané. The light surged forth, overwhelming the darkness that surrounded him. Kané's eyes widened in terror as the shadows began to dissipate, consumed by the brilliance of Sanaa's magic. "No! This cannot be!" he screamed. And then, with a final flash of light, the darkness shattered, and Kané was engulfed, the shadows fleeing from the brilliance of her spirit. The chamber filled with a warm glow as the malevolent presence was banished, leaving only silence in its wake. Sanaa stood, breathing heavily, the amulet key clutched tightly in her hand. She felt a wave of relief wash over her as she turned to Dakarai, who stood beside her, a look of awe and admiration in his eyes. "You did it, Sanaa," he breathed, pride swelling in his chest. Sanaa looked at the amulet key, its runes glowing softly in her palm. "We did it," she corrected, her heart filled with gratitude for the bond that had carried them through the darkness. Together. The chamber was filled with a serene silence, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just unfolded. As the last remnants of Kané's dark energy faded into the air, Sanaa stood in the center of the sacred space, her heart racing. Dakarai stepped closer, his brow furrowed with concern as he surveyed the room. "Is it really over?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The shadows that had once threatened to consume them were gone, leaving behind only the soft glow of the sacred stone on its pedestal. Sanaa nodded, tears of relief and exhaustion welling in her eyes. I think so, she replied, her voice trembling. We did it, Dakarai. We stopped him. But even as she spoke, the weight of the battle pressed down on her. The memories of Eldrin's face, the chaos that had erupted, and the fear of losing everything she held dear flooded her mind. Eldrin, she murmured, her voice breaking. I wish he were here to see this. Dakarai's expression softened, and he reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. He is here, Sanaa. In spirit and in everything you've learned, you carry him with you. Sanaa took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. The room began to feel warmer, the gentle glow of the sacred stone illuminating her face. You're right, she said, her voice stronger now. He would be proud of us. As they stood together in the chamber, the reality of their victory began to settle in. The villagers would be safe, the temple would be rebuilt, and the darkness that Kané had threatened to unleash was banished. Hope blossomed in Sanaa's heart, mingling with the grief she felt for her loss. Let's go home, Dakarai suggested, his voice low and soothing. We need to tell the others what happened. They need to know they're safe. Sanaa nodded, allowing him to lead her back through the remnants of the temple. As they stepped outside, the sunlight bathed them in warmth, illuminating the vibrant colors of the forest that surrounded them. The villagers had gathered, their faces reflecting a mix of awe and relief. As Sanaa and Dakarai approached, a hush fell over the crowd. You have done a great service for our people, one elder spoke, his voice thick with emotion. Your bravery has saved us all. Sanaa felt a swell of pride at their words, but it was tempered by the bittersweet reminder of the cost. We couldn't have done it without the strength of our community, she replied, her voice steady. Eldrin taught us to stand together. As the villagers erupted into cheers, celebrating their newfound freedom, Sanaa felt a warmth spread through her heart. They had fought for this, together, and as the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over everything, she turned to Dakarai. Thank you for being by my side, she said softly, her eyes locking onto his. I couldn't have done it without you. I promise, he replied, his voice thick with emotion. In a heartbeat, the space between them closed, and Sanaa found herself enveloped in Dakarai's warm embrace. The scent of pine and earth surrounded her, grounding her in the moment. She melted into him, feeling the strength of his arms around her, a sanctuary from the world. As they pulled back slightly, their foreheads touched, and Sanaa looked into his eyes, feeling the depth of their connection. You mean the world to me, she confessed, her heart racing. With a tenderness that made her breath hitch, Dakarai leaned in closer. And you mean everything to me, he murmured, just before their lips met in a gentle kiss. It was soft at first, a sweet affirmation of their bond, but as the kiss deepened, it transformed into something more profound, a promise of love, strength, and unity.